Before becoming one of the most infamous fascists of the 20th century, Benito Mussolini was a young socialist who eventually broke away from the movement, capitalizing on a wave of anti-socialist violence to rise to power in Italy. Born Benito Amilcare Andrea Mussolini, his middle names honored Italian socialists Amilcare Cipriani and Andrea Costa, reflecting his father's socialist leanings. In his 20s, Mussolini briefly served as the editor of a socialist newspaper in Austria-Hungary. Around the age of 30, in 1912, he assumed the role of editor for Avanti! Forward, the official daily newspaper of Italy's Socialist Party. However, a couple of years later, the Socialist Party expelled Mussolini due to his support for Italy's entrance into World War I. With the onset of World War I, Mussolini began to view nationalism and militarism as essential catalysts for revolutionary change. After World War I, Mussolini distanced himself from the Socialist Party, while many Italians gravitated towards it, partly due to the inability of establishment politicians to address post-war issues. The sacrifices made during the war and the inspiration from the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 created an atmosphere where anything seemed achievable. Observing the socialists' gains, Mussolini confronted them with force. In 1919, he established the Fasci Italiani di Combattimento, Italian combat squads, which would later evolve into his fascist party. This group engaged in violent actions against socialists and other perceived enemies. By 1921, Mussolini had transformed his paramilitary movement into a formal political party, emphasizing national unity, even if it meant using violence to suppress dissent. A significant motivation behind fascist violence was their desire to punish the socialists for their lack of support for Italy during World War I. The fascists viewed the socialists as cowardly traitors and internal enemies who needed to be eradicated. Mussolini's paramilitary groups, known as the Black Shirts, frequently attacked the Socialist Party and labor unions, often with financial support or supplies from wealthy landowners. These fascist squads burned down communist and socialist offices as they seized control of cities. In 1921, Mussolini was elected to the lower chamber of Italy's parliament, the Chamber of Deputies. The following year, tens of thousands of armed fascists marched on Rome, demanding that Mussolini be named prime minister. Italy's king, Victor Emmanuel III, refused to declare a state of emergency and impose martial law. Instead, he dissolved the government and asked Mussolini to form a new one. Mussolini became both prime minister and interior minister, the latter position giving him crucial control over the police. In June 1924, assassins with ties to Mussolini killed socialist leader Giacomo Matteotti, leading opposition deputies to boycott the parliament. On January 3, 1925, Mussolini essentially took responsibility for the assassination in a speech to parliament, marking the beginning of his fascist dictatorship. In response to what he considered scandalous press attacks against fascism, Mussolini declared, "The whole nation is asking what the government is doing, the whole nation is asking whether it is governed by men or by puppets." From that moment on, Mussolini, known as Il Duce, the leader, ruled Italy as a dictator. He cultivated a cult of personality, presenting himself as an all-powerful and irreplaceable leader. His regime eliminated all opposition, expelling socialist members and arresting communist parliamentarians. Local elections were abolished, and the death penalty was reinstated for political crimes. Mussolini aligned Italy with German dictator Adolf Hitler during World War II and remained in power until 1943 when he was ousted by his own Grand Council and subsequently arrested. Following a rescue by German forces, he was installed as the leader of a puppet government in German-occupied northern Italy from September 1943 to April 1945. As the grip of the Third Reich weakened in northern Italy, Mussolini attempted to escape to Switzerland with his mistress. Despite wearing German attire and a helmet in an attempt to conceal his identity, his years of promoting a cult of personality made him easily recognizable. Mussolini was captured and executed by Italian communist partisans on April 28, 1945, along with his mistress.